They say with age comes wisdom. We found 101 criminal cases that prove that is a spectacular, undeniable lie. These aren't masterminds who got old. These are lifelong amateurs who waited until their golden years to fail in the most public way imaginable. These aren't just fails. They're retirement plans funded by pure stupidity. 1. While most 87-year-olds are worried about bingo night, Doreen Payne was busy botching a jewelry store heist. After being outrun by a guard 27 years her junior, her first question to the cops wasn't about a lawyer. It was, and I quote, "Could you loosen these handcuffs?" 2. Here's some life advice. If you rob a bank to pay court fines, maybe don't walk directly next door to the courthouse to pay them with the stolen cash. A 65-year-old grandma essentially hand-delivered the evidence, the motive, and herself in one incredibly efficient, idiotic transaction. 3. Pro tip for aspiring criminals. Your disguise should probably not make you a local landmark. A 68-year-old was caught instantly after a bank robbery because he might as well have been wearing a flashing neon sign that said, "I'm the bank robber." It was a giant yellow smiley face mask. 4. There's a special kind of genius that loops all the way back around to moron. A 74-year-old Californian achieved it when he wrote his demand note on the back of his own personal, pre-printed, name and address included bank deposit slip. The case was closed before the ink was dry. 5. He defeated the security, he terrified the staff, he got the money. The only thing standing between a 76-year-old robber in Florida and a clean getaway was a door. He was arrested after being thoroughly outsmarted by a simple push-bar exit he just couldn't solve. 6. Welcome to geriatric Breaking Bad. An 80-year-old was running a drug ring out of her retirement community. Her business model collapsed because her entire customer base had a 3 p.m. nap time and zero loyalty. They snitched on her the second they got caught. 7. Picture this. 2 grandpas, a 500-pound church bell, and a 1998 minivan. This isn't a bad movie pitch. It's a real crime that ended when their getaway vehicle's suspension loudly surrendered to the laws of physics in the middle of Main Street. 8. In a move that would make John Wick weep with confusion, a 78-year-old Texan chose his weapon for a stick-up, a banana. He was arrested moments after the store clerk finished laughing. The banana, by the way, was taken in as evidence. 9. This grandpa decided to get into the porch piracy game about a decade too late. He swiped a police bait box and gave them a live, turn-by-turn GPS tour of his crime spree, which ended directly at his own front door, a door surrounded by his neighbor's stolen packages. 10. Proving that even criminals need their caffeine fix, a 69-year-old robbed one coffee stand. Then immediately used the stolen cash to buy a latte at the very next one down the road. The barista, who had already gotten the police alert, served him his drink along with a side of handcuffs. 11. An 81-year-old robber successfully escaped a bank, only to realize he'd left his car keys on the counter. In a move of spectacular stupidity, he walked back into the active crime scene and asked the still-trembling teller if anyone had turned them in. 12. The words "high-speed chase" were not in the vocabulary of the 95-year-old who robbed a store and made his getaway on a mobility scooter. Police apprehended him after what they generously called a pursuit, which involved one officer walking at a brisk pace. 13. Social media. Tip number 1 for the aspiring elderly criminal. The victory selfie comes after you've gotten away. A 77-year-old was arrested after posting a photo of herself wearing stolen designer clothes, helpfully tagging the very store she had just robbed. 14. In what sounds like the world's worst therapy session, a 70-year-old bank robber spent the heist complaining to the teller about his specific money problems. He even mentioned his own name and street address. He was arrested at home, mid-complaint, counting the cash. 15. An 83-year-old's criminal empire, which consisted of trying to rob a gas station with his walking cane, came to an abrupt end when the teenage clerk simply took the cane from him. With his only weapon gone, the man just gave up and waited for the cops. 16. A 72-year-old man slid a threatening note to a pharmacist to get prescription drugs. His plan hit a snag when the pharmacist wrote a reply, which the robber couldn't read because he had forgotten his reading glasses. The ensuing very loud conversation ended his career. 17. When choosing a disguise, opacity is generally a key feature. This lesson was lost on the 68-year-old woman who tried to rob a bank while wearing a completely transparent plastic shopping bag on her head. The police sketch artist basically just took a photograph. 18. Stealing a police car is a bold move. Turning on the siren and then immediately getting trapped in the massive traffic jam that you just created is a uniquely stupid one. A 79-year-old mastermind learned that lesson the hard way. 19. A 71-year-old's plan to shoplift a vintage cuckoo clock from an antique store was flawlessly executed right up until the top of the hour. As he casually strolled towards the exit, the large clock hidden under his coat loudly and cheerfully announced its presence to the entire store with a chorus of cuckoos. He was arrested for theft and for creating a public disturbance. 20. After a successful robbery, a 67-year-old man had a crisis of conscience and decided to confess. He called 911 to turn himself in from the payphone located directly in front of the store he had just robbed. The police didn't have far to go. 21. A senior citizen's attempt at a carjacking was foiled by his greatest enemy, modern technology. After pulling the driver out, he spent several confused minutes trying to figure out the push-button ignition, giving the victim plenty of time to find a police officer. 22. Some burglars leave fingerprints. One 76-year-old left his dentures. He'd taken them out to better enjoy some stolen pudding he found in the fridge, then forgot them on the counter. A quick check of dental records closed the case. Pudding-flavored justice. 23. Your getaway car should be inconspicuous. A bright pink Mary Kay Cadillac with giant false eyelashes over the headlights is, to put it mildly, not that. A 65-year-old cosmetic saleswoman was arrested approximately 90 seconds after her bank robbery. 24. A 70-year-old broke into a house and was apparently so impressed with the furniture that he just fell asleep on the couch. The homeowners found him the next morning, snoring, with a half-eaten bag of their Doritos resting on his chest. 25. In a move that redefined the term repeat offender, a 74-year-old robbed the same exact bank twice in 1 week. He was caught the second time because he wore the same clothes, used the same note, and was greeted by the teller with a very tired, "Oh, it's you again." 26. Never bring a boomerang to a gunfight, or a gun store robbery for that matter. A 78-year-old threw one at the store owner, missed spectacularly, and was knocked unconscious when it flew back and hit him in the head. He was arrested upon regaining consciousness. 27. After a minor fender bender, a 69-year-old grandma escalated the situation from an insurance claim to a felony by trying to rob the other driver at knife point. Her day got worse when the other driver revealed he was an off-duty cop, and his dash cam was recording. 28. What's dumber than planning a crime? But dialing 911 while you're planning the crime. Two septuagenarian burglars had their entire conversation recorded by a dispatcher who listened patiently before sending units to their location to break up the meeting. 29. A 73-year-old woman thought she was a genius for smuggling drugs into a prison by baking them into a pan of brownies. She was caught immediately by the prison guards, whose entire job involves checking for things smuggled inside baked goods. 30. An 80-year-old man was finally caught after a string of mysterious garden gnome thefts. He wasn't selling them. He told police he was liberating the gnomes and had created a sanctuary in his backyard for them to live free from the tyranny of lawn ornaments. 31. If you're going to print counterfeit money at home, maybe don't use a printer that's programmed to be a snitch. An 82-year-old was caught because her own brand new printer automatically embedded microscopic, traceable security dots onto every fake bill, essentially ratting her out to the feds. 32. The first rule of a good disguise is anonymity. A 75-year-old robber failed this rule spectacularly by forgetting to remove the "Hello, my name is Walter" name tag from his hospital volunteer shirt. He basically introduced himself to everyone at the crime scene. 33. A 71-year-old's master plan had a fatal logic flaw. He successfully robbed a gas station, only for his getaway car to run out of fuel less than a block away. His brilliant idea was to steal the money for gas, but he forgot the crucial step of actually putting it in the tank first. 34. There's choosing a risky target, and then there's choosing a target that's actively suicidal. A 69-year-old man walked into a convenience store to rob it, completely ignoring the fact that the store was located on the ground floor of the city's main police headquarters. 35. A 78-year-old's carjacking attempt was a smashing success right up until the moment he sat in the driver's seat and was confronted by his oldest and most hated enemy, a manual transmission. He was arrested while still parked, hopelessly grinding the gears. 36. The postmaster knew something was off with the 80-year-old's handgun during a robbery attempt. The main clue? It was dripping. The weapon turned out to be a very realistic super soaker, which was neutralized when the postmaster simply placed a bucket underneath it. 37. A 76-year-old burglar's crime spree was cut short by his love for procedural dramas. The homeowners returned to find him on their couch, completely captivated by a Law and Order marathon. He even shushed them so he wouldn't miss the final verdict. 38. A bank robbery failed due to criminally bad handwriting. A 79-year-old's demand note was so illegible that the teller couldn't read it. After the manager and even another customer also failed to decipher it, the man got frustrated, snatched his note back, and left in a huff. 39. When a 72-year-old was caught trying to return stolen goods without a receipt, she decided honesty was the best policy. She loudly complained to the manager that her theft-based retirement plan wasn't working out. She was promptly and permanently retired from crime. 40. Police finally nabbed an 85-year-old man for stealing dozens of plastic lawn flamingos. He wasn't selling them. He was repainting them all black because, in his words, their relentless pink cheerfulness was an insult to the harsh realities of modern life. 41. An 88-year-old woman's plan to shoplift a frozen turkey by stuffing it down her pants was foiled not by security, but by the laws of physics. She was apprehended after the intense cold caused her to shiver so violently that she could no longer walk straight. 42. After breaking into a bakery, a 77-year-old man ignored the cash register and went for the big score, a 50-pound bag of flour. He was caught after leaving a perfect, unbroken white trail from the bakery's broken door directly to his own. 43. Trying to talk her way out of a speeding ticket, a 70-year-old told the cop she was rushing to bingo. To prove it, she showed him her bingo card, which the officer immediately recognized as being from a set that was just reported stolen from that very community center. 44. A grandpa's attempt at insurance fraud was a cinematic masterpiece of failure. Security footage showed him looking left, looking right, carefully lowering himself to the floor, and then pulling a banana peel out of his own pocket to place strategically beside his body. 45. Two grandmas were caught trying to liberate a life-sized cardboard cutout of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson from a movie theater. Their brilliant heist ended in the parking lot with a geometric puzzle they couldn't solve, fitting a 6'5" movie star into a 4-foot-wide back seat. 46. In a moment of pure, unscripted chaos, a 74-year-old man demanded cash from a young bank teller. She looked him dead in the eye and just said, "Oh, no." This unexpected response so completely broke his brain that he mumbled an apology and walked out empty-handed. 47. A burglar in his late 60s left behind the ultimate digital fingerprint. He stopped mid-heist to check his Facebook notifications on the family's computer, and then completely forgot to log out. The victims came home to his profile page, ready for a friend request. 48. An 81-year-old shoplifter decided the best place to hide a very expensive wheel of gourmet cheese was under her large, hollow hat. She was discovered near the exit after she fainted, overwhelmed by the combination of heat, exertion, and powerful cheese fumes. 49. A 68-year-old man's plan to steal drugs from a veterinary clinic was foiled by the facility's alarm system, a very, very angry Chihuahua. Security footage showed the would-be thief being relentlessly pursued and cornered by the tiny, furious dog. 50. An 84-year-old robber made his demands, got the cash, and turned for a dramatic exit. His villainous departure was ruined, however, by a modern revolving door. He got stuck, going in circles for 3 minutes until a security guard had to come and help him out. 51. A criminal partnership requires flawless communication. Two grandfathers learned this when they were caught mid-burglary, loudly and furiously arguing over who was supposed to be the lookout. Their debate was settled when a third voice, belonging to a police officer, chimed in. 52. His plan was to rob the First National Bank. His execution was slightly off. A man in his 80s, due to very poor eyesight, walked into the blood bank next door by mistake. He was arrested after a very confusing standoff where he demanded cash from a terrified nurse. 53. Some habits are just too hard to break. An 81-year-old man, while fleeing the scene of a robbery, reached the exit door just ahead of the pursuing police officers. His deeply ingrained politeness kicked in, and he instinctively held the door open for them. 54. For months, police were baffled by a string of break-ins targeting convenience stores. They finally caught the 78-year-old culprit, only to discover her loot: a massive collection of already scratched, non-winning lottery tickets she thought might be valuable. 55. A 70-year-old burglar was so focused on cracking a safe that he didn't notice the police surrounding the house. His hearing aid had died mid-crime. He was finally arrested when an officer tapped him on the shoulder, complaining that they had snuck up on him. 56. In an act of pure accidental helpfulness, a 72-year-old man tried to steal a classic car but couldn't get it to start. After fiddling with the wires under the hood for 10 minutes, he accidentally reconnected a loose battery cable, fixing the car for the grateful owner, who then called the cops. 57. Most criminals worry about leaving behind DNA. This 79-year-old left behind something far more incriminating. While climbing out a window, his wallet fell out, containing not only his driver's license but also his AARP card, which offered a senior discount on arrests. 58. An 82-year-old man was arrested for causing a massive panic at a public swimming pool. In an attempt to teach his grandson how to fish, he was using a long pole with a string, but for bait, he was using a single uncooked hot dog. Dozens of swimmers, seeing it float by, mistook it for something far, far worse and fled the water screaming. 59. After getting a DUI, a 74-year-old man was sentenced to attend an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting. He was arrested again at the meeting itself for trying to sell bootleg whiskey to the other attendees from the trunk of his car. 60. A 77-year-old woman was caught on camera stealing her neighbor's prize-winning roses. When confronted by police, she claimed she was merely aggressively deadheading them, and the fact that they ended up in a vase in her living room was a complete coincidence. 61. A bank robber in his late 60s probably should have checked the local news before his heist. He staged a dramatic takeover of a bank, only to be informed by the manager that the branch had permanently closed the day before and there was no money on site. 62. An 83-year-old decided to rob a museum. He successfully stole what he thought was a priceless diamond, but was caught when he tried to sell it. The diamond was, in fact, a prop from the gift shop, clearly labeled "Made in Taiwan" on the bottom. 63. A man in his 70s was arrested for repeatedly driving his lawnmower on the highway. He explained to officers that his car was in the shop, and his GPS told him this was the fastest route to the grocery store. He was technically not wrong. 64. After a bitter dispute over the quality of their foam, a 76-year-old man declared war on a local coffee shop. His weapon of choice? He attempted to pay for a $5 latte with a heavy cloth bag filled with 500 unrolled sticky pennies, creating a biohazard of inconvenience at the counter. He was promptly arrested. 65. An 86-year-old man's crime was exposed by his own pet parrot. The bird, a gifted mimic, began repeating the phrase, "I'm telling you, Walter, it's a foolproof plan," to the man's very suspicious son-in-law, who happened to not be named Walter. 66. A 71-year-old woman tried to shoplift a steak by hiding it between her shoulder blades under her coat. She was caught after another shopper pointed out to security that the woman appeared to be growing a large, misshapen, meat-colored hump. 67. A grandpa's attempt to siphon gas was foiled by modern engineering. He stuck a hose into the gas tank of an electric car and waited. And waited. He was found by the car's owner, still utterly baffled as to why nothing was coming out. 68. An 80-year-old man tried to use his senior citizen bus pass as a getaway vehicle after snatching a purse. He was the first one apprehended when the bus got stuck in traffic, and the victim simply walked up to the window and pointed him out to the police. 69. A 75-year-old woman was arrested for throwing bricks through the window of a tax office. Her motive: she had won $50 in a scratch-off lottery and was, in her words, preemptively refusing to pay any taxes on her winnings. 70. A man in his late 80s was finally caught after a series of bizarre home invasions where nothing was stolen. Instead, he would break in, slightly rearrange all the furniture just enough to be noticeable, and then leave. He told police he was fighting suburban monotony. 71. A decades-long gardening rivalry ended in a bizarre act of sabotage. A 75-year-old man was arrested for sneaking into his neighbor's yard and giving his prize-winning pumpkin a lethal injection of buttermilk. He was caught after bragging about his masterstroke at the local diner. 72. His brilliant invention to steal from a charity donation kettle was a fishing line with chewed gum on the end. A 79-year-old man was apprehended after his high-tech device got hopelessly stuck to the inside of the kettle, leaving him attached to his crime scene. 73. During his police interrogation, a 78-year-old man confidently announced, "I plead the fifth." He then reached into his coat, pulled out a fifth of cheap whiskey, and took a long drink. The detective was forced to clarify that that is, in fact, not what that means. 74. A late-night burglar's worst fear came true: an advanced, silent security system moving in the dark. A 68-year-old man panicked and fled a house after being relentlessly pursued by what he later learned was the family's robotic Roomba vacuum, trailing a single sock. 75. An 82-year-old shoplifter was apparently torn between crime and her conscience. After stealing a $100 coat, she was seen on camera carefully placing a $5 bill on the counter. She later explained it was a self-imposed convenience fee. 76. A man in his late 70s tried to get a free meal by staging a scene at a restaurant, claiming he found a hearing aid in his soup. His scam collapsed when the manager pointed out that the hearing aid was not only on, but was loudly whistling, and it perfectly matched the other one in his ear. 77. Police were baffled by a man who kept breaking into the local optometrist's office after hours. When they finally caught the 84-year-old, he wasn't stealing anything. He was meticulously swapping out the lenses on all the display glasses, complaining that their prescriptions were all wrong, and he was fixing them for people. 78. A 69-year-old woman was arrested for trying to hire a hitman to take out her bingo rival. She offered the undercover officer $200 and a lifetime supply of her famous homemade oatmeal cookies as payment. 79. The getaway plan for two 80-year-old shoplifters was to blend in with the crowd. This plan failed when they tried to exit the store through a large crowd of people who were all running into the store because the fire alarm had just gone off. 80. A 73-year-old man led police on a chase that was measured in geological time, finally ending at a dead-end street. When asked why he didn't pull over, he explained with complete sincerity that he had just washed his pristine Pride and Joy and refused to get it dirty by stopping on the dusty road shoulder. His priorities were dangerously out of alignment. 81. A feud between two grandmothers at a county fair bake-off took a criminal turn. A 77-year-old was arrested for trying to discredit her rival by replacing the sugar in her award-winning apple pie recipe with salt when no one was looking. The judges and the police were not impressed with the new flavor profile. 82. After being banned from an all-you-can-eat buffet for life, a 70-year-old man decided to get his revenge. He was caught trying to glue the lids of all the serving dishes shut, armed with a tube of super glue and a profound sense of injustice. 83. An 85-year-old man's bank robbery attempt was doomed from the start. He handed the teller a note that read, "This is a stick-up," but had forgotten his glasses and couldn't see the teller pointing to the large sign that said, "This lane is closed." 84. A woman in her late 60s tried to steal a very expensive wig by simply putting it on over her own hair and walking out. She was stopped at the door because the wig's security tag, which she hadn't noticed, was blinking and beeping directly on top of her head. 85. A 72-year-old man was arrested for stealing a city bus. Not to sell it, not for a joyride, but because he had missed his own bus and decided to, in his words, "take matters into my own hands and improve the city's damn timetable." 86. An 88-year-old woman's crime was exposed by her own meticulous nature. After burglarizing a home, she was so bothered by the mess she'd made that she stopped to tidy up, leaving behind her own monogrammed handkerchief on a freshly dusted table. 87. A 76-year-old man tried to pass a counterfeit $20 bill. It was a nearly perfect fake, except for one small detail. Instead of Andrew Jackson's face, he had used a picture of his own prize-winning schnauzer, Mr. Fluffington. 88. A grandpa was caught trying to steal a neighbor's satellite dish. His grand plan wasn't for free TV. He told police he was convinced the dish was a government mind control device, and he was liberating the neighborhood from psychic tyranny. 89. A 71-year-old woman tried to get away with stealing a shopping cart full of groceries by pretending she was having a heart attack. Her performance was so convincing that the paramedics who arrived also noticed the unpaid-for groceries and notified the police, who were already on their way. 90. Two elderly brothers were arrested for trying to break into their old childhood home. Their motive wasn't robbery. They were trying to retrieve a secret treasure they had buried in the backyard 60 years earlier, which turned out to be a rusty can full of bottle caps. 91. In the age of smart devices, a 74-year-old arsonist was convicted by his own fitness tracker. His alibi was that he was calmly sleeping at home, but his Fitbit provided a second-by-second data map of his crime, including a massive heart rate spike precisely when the fire started. 92. The competitive world of chili cook-offs turned ugly when an 81-year-old man sabotaged his rival's entry with an entire bottle of ghost pepper extract. He was caught because he didn't wear gloves, and the bright red, tear-inducing evidence was all over his shirt cuffs and fingers. 93. Bringing old-school crime to the digital age, a 78-year-old man tried to rob a Bitcoin ATM. He walked up to the machine and slid it a handwritten note, demanding it release all of its internet money. He was arrested after a prolonged one-sided argument with the machine's welcome screen. 94. Here's a lesson in picking your battles. An enraged 70-year-old decided to get revenge on a noisy neighbor by supergluing their front door shut. He was identified immediately because, in his fury and haste, he had accidentally and very firmly glued his own hand to the doorknob, making him an unmovable piece of evidence. 95. An 80-year-old's dream of high-seas piracy ended before it even left the marina. After stealing a motorboat, he gunned the engine for 10 solid minutes, wondering why he wasn't moving, before realizing he had completely forgotten to untie the boat from the dock. 96. When choosing your robbery attire, mobility is key. A lesson a 69-year-old man learned after trying to rob a store while wearing a full suit of medieval armor. He got the cash, but was so heavy he fell over and couldn't get back up. He was arrested, lying on his back like a flipped-over turtle. 97. A 71-year-old burglar's perfect escape route was blocked by a house cat. He was foiled not by the cat attacking him, but by its complete and utter indifference. It simply sat on the windowsill he needed and refused to move, staring at him until the homeowner called the police. 98. Some people steal mail. This 83-year-old stole the entire 200-pound concrete-mounted mailbox. His motive? He was annoyed that the mail truck blocked his driveway. He was caught a block away, struggling to carry the evidence, which also happens to be federal property. 99. A 76-year-old woman crashed a wedding to steal gift envelopes. She was caught after she decided to blend in on the dance floor and started doing a very enthusiastic but extremely memorable solo Charleston routine to a modern pop song, drawing everyone's attention. 100. And for our 100th entry, the laziest crime in history. A 72-year-old man phoned a convenience store, announced he was robbing them, and demanded they leave the cash outside. He was arrested when the police simply called him back on the number he'd forgotten to block. 101. And finally, a crime that was literally its own punishment. An 84-year-old man was arrested for stealing a wet paint sign from a park bench. He was caught a few feet away, covered in bright green paint, holding the sign that had, in fact, been telling the absolute truth. 101 reasons to just stick to bingo. Now, we've shown you our collection, but the list isn't complete. So here is your mission. What is the single dumbest crime you've ever personally witnessed or heard of committed by an elderly person? That story from your local news, that thing your cousin saw, put it below. The comment section is now the official archive for points 102 and beyond. If this video made you feel like a tactical genius, destroy the like button, subscribe. The supply of incompetence is endless.